You doing, everybody? It's Wardy here, and good morning for our latest Big Mets update segment. To any of you guys that catch it within the first couple hours on the East Coast that it drops, we just live reacted over this past night to the Pete Alonso re-signing news. Check out that live show in case you guys haven't already. I know right around 20,000 you guys already have, so thank you so much for that. I'm recording this video right after the fact, right around now 2 a.m. Eastern, as you guys are watching hours after the fact, between 7 and 8 a.m. if I had to assume at this point in time, as we have planned a deep dive in Mets land. Not only is the polar bear and Pete Alonso back, that I've told you guys was inevitably going to be the case for the past couple months, but now we have to get into what is next for this Mets team, as recent reporting has also come out on Jose Iglesias, and yes, he has denied the Mets a contract offer that they presented him. To what degree did he deny them? Could a reunion still happen from now up until the start of the regular season? What are more moves that the Mets can still have happen from now up until the season starts? That is what we're going to highlight. So thank you guys so much for smashing that like and subscribe button as you first chime in, and continuing to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below on the polar bear himself and Pete Alonso back in Queens for the Mets. Now, will Jose Iglesias be next? We will find out soon enough, everybody. And shout out to our amazing sponsor at BetUS that has you covered not only with all your sports betting needs, but also with all your casino needs, folks. Get ready for a rush with BetUS Casino. Generous promotions and tournaments make every play even more rewarding. Sign up now and experience a difference. Get your bonus 200% sign up bonus up to $5,000 and a 250% crypto sign up bonus up to $5,000. Good luck to everyone that gets involved in the casino space, the betting space. Just make sure that you guys do it responsibly here with our great friends at BetUS. But folks, as we deep dive this one right off the riff, I want to see those further reactions because, folks, unfortunately my storage was full on my phone. Otherwise I was going to show it on X right away. I had my dinner everywhere on the table. I was just munching and grubbing it down right as we saw the Alonso news this past night there, and I went live right away here to break it down, folks, because you see the accolades beside me. Shout out to my amazing editor, Jacob, with the graphic. The 2019 NL Rookie of the Year, a two-time home run derby champ, a four-time All-Star, 226 home runs, roughly 600 RBIs in the organization already. Pete Alonso, who I had the privilege of being in attendance for his first ever home run at Citi Field back in 2019. Yes, it feels like a fever dream just how long ago that was, yet how close it was all at the same time, folks. Since then, Alonso has went on to be one of the most consistent home run hitters that any Mets fan could find themselves asking for. Yes, Alonso has labored, and we saw him struggle in 2024, the regular season, trying to handle those high expectations and a walk year as a Scott Boras client. But now Alonso inking with the Mets here on this deal of 2 years, $54 million. Not only does this benefit a guy like Alonso greatly, in which he's getting the AAV he's looking for, but this also benefits the Mets greatly, that I need to further break down how exactly not only Scott Boras continued to overplay his hand with yet another client that's an above average player, but nothing more than that. No slight against Alonso, just a fact. That's why he falls in the same category as Matt Chapman, Blake Snell, and Jordan Montgomery of years past. But ultimately, how David Stearns continues to look like a fantastic Pobo hire for Mr. Steve Cohen. This is exactly why, as soon as Steve Cohen became owner over 4 years ago, the first executive that he tried to get access to talk to and ultimately hire was the homegrown talent from New York who grew up a diehard Mets fan, and David Stearns, originally from the Milwaukee Brewers organization. Now David, who led the Mets after being 11 games below 500 in year one, fast forward all throughout summer, thanks to Mr. Smile himself and Francisco Lindor, thanks to Mr. OMG that we're going to get into, and Jose Iglesias, the Mets go from being the league's worst, it felt like, to months the league's best for a number of months, for a good stretch north of 100 games out of the 162. That is what you should pride yourself on if you're David Stearns, and not only first-time Pobo with his favorite team growing up, but also first-time manager in Carlos Mendoza, everybody. Then to see the Pete Alonso home run heroics with Devin Williams, and then against the Phillies, against Jack Flaherty and the Dodgers in the NLCS, Alonso had a beautiful cherry on top to potentially end his Mets tenure, but it wasn't over there. David Stearns continued to have that hard line in the sand, and that is what I cannot emphasize enough, everybody. We saw public negotiation tactics left, right, and center, even with Steve Cohen being at the heart of it all. At Amazing Day, speaking to fans, brutally honest and saying how he hates these negotiations, but as we said, if Steve Cohen didn't want Alonso back, he wouldn't be putting any effort in, or even feeling that these are exhaustive negotiations, because he himself doesn't care to bring the player back. Clearly, the Mets always want Alonso back, but from the start, they wouldn't go beyond 3 years. So even after Scott Boras and Pete Alonso approached the Mets with a 6-year offer, a 5-year offer, a 4-year offer, a 3-year offer, even after denying the Mets 3 years, $71 million, Pete Alonso settles on a 2-year deal. And why exactly does he do this? Because one, he knew that Scott Boras overplayed his hand like a lot of other previous players who unfortunately are now being represented by Boras, and now he finds himself in the short-term high AV market to try to opt out a year from now, looking for a bigger bag, pushing north of $200 million like Alonso was initially pushing for this offseason. It just didn't happen because obviously he didn't have a market after back-to-back down offensive years across the board in the regular season. But now Alonso benefits from having pretty much a 30 mil average annual value for 2025. He gets 20 mil in base salary, 10 million and the bonus there, and then that $24 million option for 2026. But I don't expect that to happen in the case of Alonso. Naturally, he is a guy I fully expect to be opting out after the 2025 season, even if he has a year similar to what we saw in 2024 regular season wise, because he would still get more from the Mets on another multi-year deal there, whether it's a couple years or if he inks long-term elsewhere, assumably that the Mets don't want to go there. Because from the start, David Stearns was given control by Steve Cohen to say, all right, David, go out there and do exactly what you were hired to do. This is why I'm paying you north of $50 million a year, David, to get the job done. And what does David Stearns do? What David does is he plays the market brilliantly. He knows that Scott Boras doesn't have the market. He knows as each passing team throughout the month of December especially had all the dominoes falling and first base options being acquired via trade and the free agent market, then nothing was favoring Alonso in this market. Now fast forward to present day, as expected, and honestly, shout out to Boomer Esiason. I'm going to give it a Boomer. Less than a week after he said that he believed that Alonso would be signing, he did officially sign with the Mets. So clearly he was hearing stuff on the build up to this happening. I know Boomer got a lot of flack, and as someone who isn't here to defend constant fellow talking heads in the space, I think Boomer deserves a little bit at least there. I'll give it to him. Maybe if you guys don't want to be as hard on him too, that's perfectly fine. However you guys feel. But what I will say is that these Alonso sweepstakes were inevitable from the start. And I hope that a lot of you Mets fans who have been following the platform, which is why we are now far and away the largest Mets platform on YouTube for fans not directly affiliated with the Mets themselves. It's all thanks to you guys following along with our daily content, and you guys listen to me. A lot of you guys believe me when I told you an Alonso reunion would be inevitable, would be short-term high EV with opt-outs. It was always going to be that way. It's looked that way for at least the past month and a half now. Even with the Mets considering to pivot, those trade options that they considered more than Mark Vientos reportedly per Pat Ragazzo was still not enough to move the needle for them over just bringing Alonso back at least for 2025. It's a recipe for success for both sides. For Alonso, now he enters the deepest lineup that he's ever been a part of in his young career, and we're going to deep dive that in a separate video, so be on the lookout for it. So excited about this Mets lineup. It's just oozing with talent left, right, and center. The best lineup that I've ever been a part of as a fan, a witness, a young fan here heading into the 2025 season. But not only is this exciting from the lineup aspect of things, which could really help juice the offensive numbers for Alonso should he try to hit the market again, but for the Mets and for how they're trying to configure to go up against the rest in the game right now, this is the best way to round out your roster as we head into what's going to be a juggernaut of an NL East battle in 2025. And then you have the Padres, the Dodgers, the D-backs, the Giants, a four-headed monster there with the Dodgers leading the way out of the NL West. And we know that everyone in the NL Central is a solid baseball club at minimum, so it's going to be a bloodbath all year long pushing for postseason play. But how the Mets will be able to get there is going to be in part because of guys like Pete Alonso helping and driving in those runs after Juan Soto's walked for a third consecutive time in the game, and Alonso finally drives him in after maybe striking out the first at bat or two with runners in scoring position. I'm just pumped to see Pete back for at least another year there after his tremendous home run campaign, those heroics in the postseason play, and now he enters the fold with Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor, and everyone else in company for what's destined to be a tremendous 2025 season, folks. And as we talk not only on Alonso, on this significant impact on how David Stearns looks like an absolute brilliant Pobo by playing the market as strongly as he did, let's get into how he is currently still playing the market, that being and Mr. David Stearns himself, everybody, because as you guys can see right here, and we're going to move this beautiful graphic away just for 2 hot seconds, and then we'll bring it back here, everybody. Because as many of you guys know, the Mets 2025 season right now looks like it's going to be promising when you look on the offensive output. But there's still one more player that would like to be part of this group, or at least that the Mets would like to be part of this group, and that is Mr. OMG himself and Jose Iglesias. And the latest on Jose Iglesias may actually surprise you, everybody. So let me pull up real quick here Jose's numbers, because I did want to show each and every one of you here. So one, we're going to do this. We're going to get rid of Tim Hill's numbers that you guys can't see. It's only that I can see behind the scenes. Let's bring in Iglesias numbers here for the 2024 season, because not only did Jose Iglesias have a tremendous half season, pretty much one of the best half seasons for a second baseman and recent Mets history, absolutely there, with a 337, 381, 448 clip for a 2.5 WAR, a 137 WRC plus. For context, Jose Iglesias was a more valuable player on WAR alone than Pete Alonso in 2024. Just to show you how much Alonso labored throughout the course of 2024 defensively and for every other aspect of his game, not just the power implementation alone. But we see from Pat Ragazzo, everybody, right after the Alonso news over this past night, Pat reports the following: the Mets offered Jose Iglesias a one-year contract offer, but Jose denied said offer as a Scott Boras client like Alonso and is seeking a multi-year deal. Now, what's interesting about this is that the Mets just brought on Nick Madrigal on a split contract, where Madrigal is not a lock to be on the roster, but he'll be competing for a roster spot as a very cheaper utility option with great defense, potentially even greater defense than Iglesias, but the bat-to-ball skills are night and day from what you're getting in Jose Iglesias, who has a lot of upside still, even now entering his age 34, 35 season. I think you have a lot in the tank for Jose Iglesias. I think he's not a guy that's going to thrive in any situation, nor do I see Jose Iglesias getting a multi-year offer. I understand why he's seeking it. This is far and away the biggest breakout and this limited of a sample size he's had in his career, even as much of a veteran as Iglesias is. But I do not foresee a world where a team is going to go out of their way to give Jose Iglesias a multi-year offer. So I'm going to put the stamp, I'm going to put the foot down, baby, just like I did with the Pete Alonso negotiations going over the past month and a half, 2 months. The exact same way I felt about Pete Alonso, the exact same way I felt about Jesse Winker. What do these guys have in commonality? They're going to return to Queens, folks. Pete Alonso, Mr. Jose Iglesias, Mr. OMG himself, both Scott Boras clients. Doesn't change the fact that I firmly believe that Jose Iglesias is still going to return back with the Mets when everything is said and done. I don't believe the notion that, oh, just because Jose Iglesias put himself in a position where he wants a multi-year deal, that the Mets won't be willing to bring him back. I think, if anything, the opportunity is still very much there. And I know you guys are going to say, but Wardy, there aren't roster spots for the Mets right now. How does it at all make sense? Here's the thing. You make roster spots, guys. Every single year, the Mets make roster spots. You know, we have multiple guys signed, you know, to spring training invites. We have some guys on major league deals right now that the Mets can part with, that they signed in the early goings of the offseason. And again, Madrigal's on a split contract for a reason. This is no different, in my opinion, than the Zach Short situation last offseason, when, mind you, Zach Short actually started and broke the roster out of camp over Jose Iglesias. Imagine if Jose started the year with the Mets the way he was supposed to from the beginning. Madrigal falls more in the Zach Short category, in my opinion. Iglesias falls in the Iglesias category. He will prove his worth. He will prove his willingness. I think as long as Jose realizes that he's going to have a better chance to have another fun run with the Mets in 2025 than any other team, because the vibes just won't be the same. He won't be in nearly as deep of a line, more than likely. And again, I understand he's prioritizing dollars and what's best for his family, but when it comes to role, fit, and truly being embraced by an organization, no one has rallied around a player better than what the Mets did with Jose Iglesias in the OMG song this past season. So not only from a marketability standpoint, where it would benefit Jose Iglesias, because let's be real, how many people are going to care about Jose Iglesias and his marketability if he goes back to the Cincinnati Reds in comparison to what he would be with the Mets? It's just night and day in the media aspect, so that can benefit him financially as well, especially if he does more mixes with guys like Pitbull, among other things. But for Jose Iglesias, I respect the grind. I understand why he wants a multi-year deal, while also understanding putting two and two things we call common sense together, that until we see it, I'm not going to believe it that Jose Iglesias is signing a multi-year deal elsewhere. I got to see it first, and then I will find myself comprehending that reality. Until then, I think that he is still destined to return the Mets, and even if it doesn't happen until after spring training starts, this is a guy that can sign midway through spring training, towards the end of spring training, and still be ready to go, whether he starts the year on the roster off the bench, getting second base reps right away. However they go about it, with still uncertainty to Luis Angel Acuna, Ronnie Mauricio, Jet Williams, and even with Jeff McNeil, I think the Mets can still find a way to make Jose Iglesias work, even if that means a trade happens elsewhere to part ways with some guys that are currently on the roster. So Mets fans, how do you guys feel on the front of Jose Iglesias? Do you think a reunion is going to happen, or do you think him denying the Mets that one-year contract offer is telling that he wants what's best for him and his family, and he's going to do everything in his power to ink a multi-year deal before potentially circling back to the Mets? Whatever your thoughts are on Iglesias and the reunion of the polar bear himself and Pete Alonso, please let us know in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching. Be on the lookout for more consistent content, all things Mets, as we will have a segment out later today on the New York Post Sports YouTube channel, myself and Dexter Henry further breaking down and reacting to the Pete Alonso news. I'll also be live in the Bleacher Report at 4 p.m. Eastern sharp, breaking down more on the Alonso news, what is next for the Mets, and all the other news happening across Major League Baseball. So be on the lookout for that, along with another video either later today on the Mets Live, if not the following day. We may have a live stream later today too. We got a lot of Mets content cooking, baby. Join the family if you haven't already. Thank you so much again for watching, and as always, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.